Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patriots III, Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness. We'll be starting in just a moment, so stay tuned. And here's your host, Tim, Spitfire, and Billy. Spitfire,
Welcome in,
Billy.
everyone.
How you two doing today?
Doing good.
Some interesting
How you
stuff
doing?
going on. Oh, doing all right. Had some fun weather earlier this morning, but I'm still kicking like a chicken, as I like to say. Yeah, the life of being in a wheelchair, that's the best I can do for the moment. But yeah, so we had a lot of interesting things going on with the current events, and we have some wonderful guests coming on. Actually, one of them's unexpected, but it's awesome to have Care Bear joining us in a little bit. And we also have Crumbles Cookie. We'll be talking about what's going on with the children and the border, and then we have some update. And I believe Drone is going to be helping out as well as Care Bear, helping out with what's going on with some things we talked about last week with the J6 situation. So we'll be covering quite a bit, but some current events that are going on. So I talked about a bill or a couple of bills that were going on in last week's show, and unfortunately, Bill AB 89 by Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez and AB 844 by Assemblyman Bill Asaley. Both bills were aimed to restore sanity to women's sports and spaces in California. And this is going on with the schools in California, the grade schools and high schools, actually. Unfortunately, those bills were, they're not going to make it. And let's see, Assemblyman Rick Chavez, I can't even pronounce his last name, ZBUR, called some people there at the Capitol Nazis. And then Assemblyman Chris Ward said that men who think they are women, well, I guess they are, is basically what he said. So I'm actually paraphrasing here. But I guess Matt Walsh was there in California yesterday during this whole thing going on at the Capitol. So, it's terrible that people aren't, getting up and doing some civic duties. So, Billy, what's your thoughts?
I hope all the voters remember certain things when it comes time to vote and keep tabs on what's going on with the people we elected to do their jobs and protect our kids and protect our rights.
Yeah.
And they're showing by what they're pushing forward is not what we want. And it's sickening to me, to be honest.
I completely agree. Spitfire.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with what Billy says. There needs to be a huge change in California. The people in power are not the people that we want in power. The majority of Californians want in power. It's just a process of trying to get them out.
Yeah.
And that has become very, very difficult. So, but we'll just see what's going to happen with this because, as Trump's been threatening, taking funding away.
Yeah.
If they don't comply. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we also talked about that in last week's show as the governor of Maine, that threat went toward her. And so it's quite an interesting world as things seem to be flipped very well upside down. We need to protect our girls in the schools, our children. And, we'll be talking a little bit more about that when we have a Cookie on. So some other interesting news that I saw earlier today on Truth Social, California is very familiar with Javier Becerra and his role in office there in California. And then he played a big part in the Biden campaign the last 4 years. And I guess there's an announcement that he might be running for governor in the state of California. Again, Billy, what's your thoughts?
We've spent a lot of time with people like Newsom, and it's time for a drastic change. And like I said before, please, when you go vote, do the right thing for the love of God.
Spitfire.
You know what? I don't even have any words on this one. Next week it's going to be somebody else. Wasn't it Kamala that was supposed to do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody. I mean, you know, no words, no words.
I mean, educate yourselves is the best that I could say. Educate on what bills these people have done in the past. There's various ways you can research this, and yeah, just do your homework. And it doesn't matter what side of the party lines you're on. If you don't agree with a lot of things that they've done in the past, stand forth. It doesn't matter what party you're with. It's unfortunate again that people don't educate themselves before they vote. They just vote because of the party, and I'm guilty. I've done that before. It's terrible. I shouldn't have done that when I was younger, but as the saying goes, young and dumb, and that's what I was at the time. So that's what my thoughts are on the whole thing. Because yeah, I don't believe Javier did very well for the state of California. Anything else happening in the current affairs?
A lot of gun legislation trying to get swept.
Okay. Wow. 2A keeps on getting attacked, unfortunately. So, folks, if you're actually seeing this, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, the like button. Share this with as many people as you can. Currently, we're broadcasting on 3 different platforms. I decided to try something a little different. So right now we're on Facebook and Rumble, but I'm also streaming to YouTube at Tim Holiday TV. Is what the call sign is. Let me see if I can pop that on screen really quick here. Let's see here. I'll just bring up 2 of them. It's tough being in my position. I get a little of everything to do. I'm usually the guy in the background doing all the sharing and all the little buttons in the background. So I've been doing this for about 5 years now with my involvement of trying to oust the governor in California, good old Gavin Newsom. So I know what that's all about. So let me go ahead and pop that up on screen. So yeah, if you're seeing this, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button or hit the like button, and yeah, let's get this out because there's a lot of things going on. So I'm going to bring on one of our guests here, Care Bear. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So you have some information you would like to share in regards of last week's show.
I really don't know what y'all talked about. I watched a little bit of it.
We had LW on and we had Josh Pruitt on.
Yeah.
So we were talking about J6 and what's happening with that. So I believe you have an update on LW.
Yeah, LW had to self-surrender at 2:00 today, and he had put in last week, I believe it was. I talked to him at 12:30, and he said he was 5 minutes away from the hellhole they was going to put him in, but he was still waiting. He had just got off the phone with his lawyer, and they had filed an emergency motion last week for a stay and just to vacate all this. And at 12:30, he had still not heard anything. And he said, if he hears something by 2, then he'd let everybody know. And we heard from him at, I think it was 1:46. He said that he was walking into FCI Beckley in West Virginia. So we hope and we pray the good Lord has heard all our prayers, and hopefully, the good Lord sees fit to see LW out within the next day. We pray, but the good Lord has His hands in everything, so it's only up to Him. And we ask that everybody be with LW and all the other J6ers that are going through all this, because even the DOJ has said that the other charge, the possession of firearm by a felon that they got LW on, was fruit of the poisonous tree. So even the corrupt DOJ has said that it's in the pardon. He should have been pardoned. Nothing should be held against him. He should not be going back and being incarcerated. But his DC activist judge said, we don't care what Trump says, and we're going to send him back to prison for 5 years, because that's what they give him on the possession of firearms. And that was, I'm sure y'all heard, but that's over his guidelines. I done 11 months for the same charge. I got home. I got charged with an unconstitutional charge, and I was released July 3rd of last year, but it was supposed to have been July 4th, but it's, Patriots Day, America, that's the birth of America. And, I was in there on an unconstitutional charge, same as LW is. And I was released on July 4th. So, but, so that's what they got him for. And like I said, everybody knows, but But even the DOJ, as corrupt as they are, they said he's covered under the pardon, but his corrupt judge said otherwise.
So I should have brought this up last week when we were talking about this. So they're trying to put him on charges for being there at the Capitol on January 6th. And they found something else in his home, which they were just there to get him. Or that one specific thing. And they're trying to compound all that other, having the firearms.
Yeah.
Wow. That's terrible.
Oh, it's crazy.
How are they getting away with this?
Because they don't care. I mean, it's the law enforcement, the justice system. They think they're above the law. I mean, it's been that way for years, and I'm dealing with that here locally. I filed a complaint within the local police department here where I'm from just last week about a cop having a dog in a restaurant and not even it being on a leash. But everybody's laughing at me and they're like I got a target on my back, but it's because nobody has held them accountable. That's why they get away with it, because people have quit holding the officials accountable for years. They quit years ago, and that's where we're at. And everybody's like, well, I'll just vote. Well, I don't like this person over here, so I'm going to vote for this. Well, I agree with what they're saying, and people forget that it's we the people that the government works for. It ain't we the government, it's we the people. And we the people put these people in office. And then, you talk about California, people are from California that have voted that place into a cesspool are leaving because they don't like the cesspool that they voted it into now. But
I didn't
they're
vote
not standing up for it.
Yeah, I tried standing up for it. Again, I'm a proponent and actually a background technician for, trying to get rid of the governor of California. And I went to the Capitol a number of times trying to fight up against bills. And it's like you heard me earlier, some of these bills were unfortunately, shot down. But I ended up leaving. I tried fighting the fight, and it's hard.
And it's the thing. People like what they bitch among themselves about everything, what's going on, whether it be local, whether it be state, or whether it be national. Everybody bitches and complains amongst themselves. They'll get on a text message, they'll get in a group chat somewhere or Facebook, but that's as far as it goes. Nobody gets up. Why is the DOJ and the justice system the way it is because everybody bitches about it, but nobody goes and bitches to the right people. Nobody goes and files the paperwork to hold those judges or those cops or the prosecutors accountable for the corruption that they have done. That's how we have gotten to where they are. People, they've become too complacent. They're like, oh, it's not at my front door. Really, it is at everybody's front door. Whether you're on the left side, the right side, in the middle, everything that's going on is at everybody's front door, because you look at our food prices, our gas prices, look at the judicial system, it's at everybody's front door. But they're like, I can still go to work. I'm still making money. Well, it hurts so and so. Well, that's not me. Just like LW right now, there's people like, that's him. I hate it for him, but I'm home now and I'm in my comfortable life, and we're just gonna bypass it. No, I'm still spreading the word about LW. I still pray for LW. I know LW personally, and he's a close friend of mine, and I'm not forgetting him. I'm not forgetting none of the other J6ers that I have met. I met when I was incarcerated, and we got to be more proactive about everything. Be proactive about the J6ers, about holding the DOJ and even your local officials and prosecutors accountable, and go through the proper motions instead of just bitching at home about it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if you're not standing up, then wow, why even complain? And no,
you're
I
part
totally
of the problem.
Get what you're saying. Correct. Yes. Yeah. If you're not doing anything, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. Spitfire, what's your thoughts?
Well, just like Care Bear said, they're here, they're everywhere, they're at your front door. The only difference between some and others, they haven't had the front doors kicked in yet.
Right.
So they don't understand. And many people don't really understand how corrupt the system is. They're pro judge, pro cop, pro this. I'm not saying everybody's bad. You got some really good judges out there, really good police officers and so forth, but you have a lot of corruption out there too.
True.
And it's like Care Bear said, until these people are held accountable, then nothing can be done. And right now it's like, I have no hope in our judicial system. I haven't for a while. And even like what Trump ran on and so forth, that they're gonna, stop this, stop that. Fine. You're hearing all this stuff, but where are the arrests? Where are the charges? When is any of this going to happen?
Right.
Until that day, and people are starting to be held accountable, especially those in higher power. I really don't have any hope for for anyone anymore. I don't see any change. I just see it getting worse.
Yeah, I agree. Billy?
With LW situation, this is what really upsets me. Stand-up guy, for those that know LW, he's not a big guy. He's just on the smaller side. But he made a choice. He made a choice to stand up for people that couldn't protect themselves. He put his boots on that line and said, you know what? I'm going to do what's right. And for somebody to get the book thrown at them for doing what anybody should do, being in the right, sickens me that our judicial system is throwing the book at him. And it's sad that we pay our taxes, we go to work, and we're getting taxation without proper representation. And that's where I feel a lot of people in America lose track. I pay my taxes. I go to work every day, punch a time card. Give me what I pay for.
Yeah, but it's like you said, Billy, that's true. You make noise, you start making them uncomfortable, they're going to come after you. And they come after you one by one, just like the J6ers, one by one. And they just started taking everybody out. You go to make noise and you're in their sights now. So they're trying to make people fear them for making noise. They say, numbers, well, look at all the J6ers. How many numbers was that? That was a lot of numbers. So really, I mean, like I said, it's until you really see some of the good guys in the judicial branches, whatever, start throwing charges on these bad judges. And I don't mean just remove a judge from the bench. No, they should have charges against them if they disregarded the law or whatever. But I'm just saying I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm tired of them scaring people to make noise, and nothing happens. Or when they do finally get some of them, what do? They retire early and move to the Bahamas. Nothing ever comes of it. There's no justice. There really isn't.
Yeah. So we have another guest coming in right now. Drone, otherwise known as Jason. Jason.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Welcome in.
Guys. So I just want to kind of parrot this thing from the beginning. Sorry for my tardiness.
That's all right.
Just got in from Florida. Back in 2020 or early 2019, we all knew that, the mainstream media was spilling directives and, massive amount of people listen to that. They didn't actually do their own research. Election of 2020 happens. We move forward, January 6th happens. The people that were there, and I want to say probably 95% of them are there peacefully and patriotically. I've heard reports of there have been feds undercover, there have been confidential informants, there have been Antifa, BLM, all the way around. They're causing the quote unquote violence. And now we jump forward, 4 or 5 years. And, here we are in 2025. Our friend LW, Dan Wilson, has been pardoned from prison. Got brought back by Judge Friedrich and she has said, I know your attorney wants it dismissed, the prosecution wants it dismissed, and she has single-handedly um, decided that the pardon does not apply to him. Now, I'm with you guys that we leave no man left behind. We get them all out, or we don't get any of them out. So right now, I think it was 1575 is the last count I saw. Don't quote me on that number. That is, here and there. Initially when he went in for a plea for 3 years. And that had his state and his, federal charges combined. And she decided single-handedly that wasn't enough, so she sentenced him not 3 but 5 years. Well, he's already done 4.5 months plus today, because he went back in today. And here we are wondering what to do. Care Bear just mentioned, reach out to your local, coverages. I have single-handedly called Hal Rogers, which covers the eastern part of Kentucky. I called his DC office. I've called his Prestonsburg office. I've called his local office. No one would take my call. I had to literally send an email to a woman named Shalise today, and I can share that email out today. Say, I know how Roger doesn't issue pardons, but he can get in the ear real easily, real quick, a lot faster than any of us can get into any of their ears to get a full pardon. Because apparently a full pardon to these DC judges, you have to literally spell out particulars. Because if you go back and read her her judgment, the pardon was too vague. And that was her justification as to sending Dan back to prison. I have been on X today. I have called Rand Paul's office. I have called Hal Rogers' office multiple times today, and we will continue to do so. At the end of the day, we really need to say, does the J6 community stand up for everybody, or are we just going to say, hey, are we good? We got most of the people out. Jeremy Brown was left behind. It's we're good with everybody else, just leave Jeremy Brown. Or are we going to say, oh, we're good, just leave Dan Wilson? Or Care Bear. Care Bear, quote unquote, is not a J6er, but he is a J6er. The only reason he served any time at all was due to J6 investigations. They call it stuff fruit of the tree. And do we stand up for everybody, or do we leave somebody behind? That's the question you have to ask yourself at the end of the day. We have to, in my opinion, we have to stand up for everybody, or this whole movement and all this screaming and fighting over the last 4 years is for nothing. Tim, your thoughts?
My thoughts, I'm just what ADC said, get them all out. So I'm in complete agreement. And what they did to LW, Dan Wilson, they were, and I said this earlier to Care Bear, and I should have talked about this last week, is they went into bring him in on just the charges of being there at the Capitol, but then they tried compounding him with something else.
Correct.
So that so that right there is it appears to be unfair, unjust of how they did that. And I'm in absolute agreement. They're gonna let some out, but not all. No, get them all out. I'm in complete agreement with that.
Go.
Oh, I thought you said give me.
So let me see if I can. There it is. Okay. So that's what my thoughts are. Okay. Sorry, there, Drone. I put you on mute for a brief moment.
Sorry, boss.
That's all right, Chief.
You got people invading me.
I heard that.
I was wanting to on my end, I am in a militia, and that's constitutionally protected. So is the Second Amendment supposed to be.
Yeah.
But like Drone just said, I was they come looking at me through J6 investigations. I wasn't at the Capitol on January 6th, but I was picked up through J6 investigations. And in my, the PSR, pre-sentence report, what that is, and on the day of sentencing, I go, and that's when I get to speak my mind, and tell the judge, hey, look, don't lock me up. I shouldn't be locked up. Blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
The prosecutor, it was 4, if not 5 times, said he interrupted me, he interrupted the judge, and he interrupted my lawyer, and he's like, Your Honor. But he's in a militia because I caught my felony charge when I was 20 years old. I was young and dumb and run from the law. I got out, had 5 kids. I run my own business. I ain't had so much as a speeding ticket since I got out in 2006. So, and then they hit me with this bogus charge. But anyways, the prosecution kept bringing up, this is how much this is how I know it was political on my end, and most everybody else's, is because he said, Your Honor, he's in a militia. He was organizing firearms training. He said that 5 different times, the exact same thing to the judge, to try and make me look like a bad guy, because everybody knows that the media and the government has portrayed the militia as terrorists, as bad guys, as the people that, want to do the country harm, when we don't. But that just shows how much political my charge was, LW's charge was, and all the other J6ers, at how all that was just, it was a political thing. And, everybody knows that, most everybody knows that, but there's proof right there. I'd like to get the transcript so I could show that recording to people. But that prosecutor said that, like, the judge asked him, he's like, are you trying to press him other charges against him? He's like, no, I just wanted to let you know that he's in a militia and he was organizing firearms training. I'm like,
Wow.
so.
Well, I mean, political persecution. I mean, that's not something we ever thought we'd see in America.
Right.
Wholeheartedly, these last, I don't want to say concrete, for the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen that stem from every J6 political case. Do not forget, they put people in federal prison for misdemeanors. And if that's something you can let go, I just don't have any hope for you. I don't know about you guys. I want my pound of flesh. Every single one of these J6ers, there needs to be a mass lawsuit against the federal government for lack of due process, judicial persecution, and not only these prosecutors, these judges need to be held accountable. And just getting fired is, what is that? I've been fired before. I don't. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
They need to pay it personally. They need to be set accountability. Um, I won't say it out loud, but I know what the price for treason is, and I think this. I think this levels treason
Yeah.
is what we've seen for the last 4 years,
Yeah.
and not just our judges. How are our Congress members becoming multi-millionaires on salaries of 150 to $200,000 a year, $250,000 a year?
Yeah, I'll give an example of like a $9.5 million home that the
Yeah,
governor in California has on
please.
a $154,000 salary. It doesn't make sense.
Explain it to me, because I know that me and my wife, we are well blessed, and we
Yeah,
make more than a congressperson makes, and we cannot afford that, and we do not have the bank account to support what these people are, one, buying, or two, what their value is.
right.
Um, I
Yeah,
did
make it
see.
make sense. I
Well,
understand.
it's they can delete all the financial data. I don't think they understand how the technology works. That stuff can be retrieved.
Right.
So, these people are all screaming now. Oh, anti Doge, anti this. We are going to, shut this down. Doge is probably single-handedly the biggest absolute thing that we could do as Americans to make sure our tax dollars are being spent efficiently. And anybody screaming against that is wholeheartedly against that. And that's not just pointing at them. That's a whole government. And at some point, I hope to God they release those names and what happened. And I want to see prosecutions. I want to see arrests for fraud, abuse, and that's not just at the congresswomen. That is at judges. That is at their staffers. Because there is no reason that our government has to have 200,000 staffers for all these people, and you tell me they're not involved.
Right.
I'm going to call BS is what I'm going to call.
Oh, that's a good call. I agree with you.
Yeah, Tim, I want to see accountability, and that's what we have been lacking is accountability for everything across this entire whole thing that we call a government for years. I'm talking the last 30, 40 years. We have had the Biden administration hand out like social security numbers to millions and millions and millions of illegal immigrants. And now they're getting Social Security. They've been saying Social Security's dying for years. It's not been dying. They've been getting robbed from. They've been getting fraudulent.
Right.
And that's the whole point. It's a money game.
Yeah, it is.
Whole game. And
whose money is it? It's taxpayers' dollars.
Well, look at it, Tim. I mean, go all the way back to Act Blue, if you would, sir. Act Blue. That is the Democrats' main campaigning fundraising. If you would follow the money and the finances from just Act Blue alone, they're saying that a senior citizen that is on a fixed income is making $7,000. I'm just making these numbers up. Don't quote me on these.
Right.
They're making $7,000 donations a year, or 7,000 different donations a year. How many times in a day? Oh, it's only $3, $4. These people go talk to these people, and I'm like, I've made like a $20 donation like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right there's how you find the money.
Right.
It's real simple. When you look at the whole of our country, the left and this propaganda machine has inflated their numbers, or at least in the public eye, that it's to the point that they can win elections. I think when this thing is done, the Democratic Party won't even be recognizable for the next 20 years, minimum.
Right.
And that is on election donations. That is on, oh, we're coming in on major cities. Oh, we're going to come in on legal elections, election fraud. Then you got to look at these electronic machines that they are using and they're preloading 20, 30, 50,000 votes on.
Right.
It's cool if they do that, but we need transparency, and that's what we've been lacking as Americans for a long time. And
I'm a computer technician and a networks technician, and anything connected to a network can be hacked. I will say straight up, to your cell phones, computers, anything connected to a network can be hacked. And this is also including those machines.
Well, those machines were proven in 2020, right after the elections, that they could be hacked in real time. I mean, that was done. That was shown on live TV that these election machines were being hacked in real time.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a J6 without 2020.
Right. Care Bear.
Election.
Talking about things being hacked. I had a guy tell me the other day, I never knew, and I don't know if you know or anybody else knows, but when you're driving down the interstate, you get close to a big city, and you look up and it says 15 minutes to Cincinnati, 30 minutes to Los Angeles. From that specific spot.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me that. I was like, how do they know? I've always wondered how they knew that. They know that travel time because if your Bluetooth is on your phone, they're
Yep.
picking up that Bluetooth signal at that specific location, and then they pick it up again whenever you get to that location, whether it be Miami, Cincinnati, New York City, whatever location it may be. That's how they know that it's a 45-minute, commute from this point to that point, or a 15-minute delay or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. I
They
mean, I knew
triangulate.
they hacked things, but I did not know that they were just like picking it right up straight up off your Bluetooth
Yeah, they
like that.
triangulate that way. Yeah, that's wild.
Well,
That's wild.
I mean, honestly, that comes back to geotabs. You know, we hear that, oh, we can't use any of the geotabs from anybody that dropped off illegal ballots in back in 2020,
Yeah.
but we can use geotabs for people that were at J6.
Yeah.
And it's like, so do we use it or do we not use it? It's
Right.
it's like, where do you draw the line?
Right.
They can set that up around the Capitol, but they can't set it up around ballot boxes. And Dinesh D'Souza has already released tons of information. Where the hell is Pam Bondi? Where's Cash Patel? I want to see arrests. I want to see them today.
Right. Sorry, I was laughing at a
Uh,
comment in the chat.
Sorry, what's the comment? Well, go ahead.
Oh, I'll bring it up on screen. Sorry.
Oh, listen, man.
Albert's having fun with you.
Albert, we're not drinking Bud Light tonight, boss. Tonight is Bud Ice. I know,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's extra crazy. But anyway,
So we have another guest who's waiting to come on, but I wanted to talk to you really quick
shoot him
about
in.
the
Let's go.
I saw something in the one of the chats about a Cash App in regards to LW.
Yes, sir. So currently there is a Gifts and Go up that is by Condemned USA.
Okay.
That is to help cover the legal fees, because every time there's an appeal, it is several thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And then if you want to personally contribute to LW just to make sure he's got his commissary in order, to make life a little bit easier while he's inside prison, that is going directly to Care Bear.
Okay.
And we have that. And it is $.
I have it. I'll bring it up in the chat in just a moment.
Fantastic. It's B Welder. Is
Yep,
it
I got it.
LLL or 111 Care Bear?
I got it right here from one of
No,
the chats.
it's B Weld Roman numerals 3%. They wouldn't let me put the percent sign on there, but it's B Weld Roman numerals 3.
Okay. Yeah. So
I just put it in all the chats, and there it is up on screen.
So make sure you share that. We want to do the Condemned USA to make sure we can still continue this legal fight, because it's not just lawfare. It is literally coming at people financially. I don't know about you guys. I don't have $70,000 in the bank to fight off the United States government. I will say that while Dan was on home arrest, he was allowed to work. He downsized everything, and he probably put out probably over $80,000 to $90,000 in support for the J6 community. So at this point in time, I would love for the J6 community. Let's not be quiet. Let's keep screaming from the rooftops if we have to. I know I've been calling these politicians from mountaintops today, because the only place I had service. I told the wife, said, "Hey, pull over. I'm going to call Hal Rogers. Hey, pull over. I'm calling Rand Paul. Hey, pull over. I'm calling the White House. Hey, pull over. I need to make a post on X and tag Pam Bondi and Cash Patel all the way down to Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, all the way up to the POTUS.
Yeah.
that's how we got all these people out of prison to start with, is we made noise.
Yeah.
We're not going to stand by and be your punching bag. Like, you want some, come get some. But as far as standing by being your punching bag, not today.
No.
Not tomorrow. You want to get some next week, I'll meet you in that alley. We need to be as loud and as proud as ever. And if anybody's ready to quit, go ahead and raise your hand. Care Bear, you ready to quit? That's a no. Pam or
Not
Spitfire,
anytime
sorry.
soon.
Billy, Tim. I
Not
mean,
ready
I'm
to
not ready
quit.
to quit. It's hands down. It's all hands on deck. Now's the time. We've got most of the people out. That's not good enough. I want all the people out. I want all these judges out. And
Yeah, Albert says he even called me.
I see Albert down there. What's up, my man? Love you, buddy. You better take a picture of me on your TV, Albert. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry. I don't mean to rant.
No, that's okay. So, some good ranting going on here, and a lot of what Albert said earlier about weaponizing the government, and yeah, it's just terrible. What they did is totally unconstitutional by weaponizing the government. I'm paraphrasing what Albert said earlier, but here, I'll put it up on screen here. Yeah, so I totally agree with that.
100%. I mean, Albert's on point.
Yeah.
I know we've heard the term constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
Thrown around lightly over the last few years. In America, at least in, recent times, let's say recent last 40 years, have never seen this type of weaponization of the government against its citizens that we have faced over the last 5 years. It's like trying to react. Do you do, convention of states? Do you go that route? Do you go straight out anarchy? Do you stop, paying taxes? I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I have my opinions, but nobody likes my opinions.
But I mean, I think Doge is heading in the right direction of things.
Absolutely, yes. I think Doge is going out cutting out the wasteful spending.
Yes.
And
that needs to happen.
If you can't agree with that, then I think that you have been brainwashed by the mainstream media, and you need to start seeking alternative sources of information.
Unplug the tube.
Yes, Tim. Thank you. Good quote.
Thank you.
Spitfire, quote him on that. Put that on the chat. I think we need to not just sit down and have conversations across the aisle, but conversations about common sense.
Yeah.
And then discuss, treason.
Yeah.
If you commit treason, I know what that penalty is. I'm not going to say it on here, but I know what the penalty for treason is.
We all do.
And we need to see accountability across the board, regardless who it is. I don't care if it's ex-presidents. I don't care if it's my neighbor down the street. If you're going out right now and you're firebombing a Tesla because you don't like Elon Musk, I'm sorry, that is you should get a terroristic enhancement on that alone.
I want to give my opinion here on the whole thing. I'm not for the battery powered cars. I'm not for those, but I am for, standing up for what's right and what has been done. And I saw a number of protests, most specifically in California, protecting, the Tesla dealerships. So I agree with protecting the Tesla dealerships, and I'm not for those electric cars. So, I mean, that's just, where I stand on that.
I mean, Tim, honest to God, I'm not for the electric cars either. However, I was traveling in South Carolina today, pulled in to get some fuel in my, in my gas vehicle that was rented, and saw some guys, like 4 guys, pushing a Tesla in that was completely dead, and it had a little bit of an incline to get to the charging station. I got out of my car. I went and helped push it up to the charging station. They
Yeah,
said it
yeah,
took 55 minutes to charge it from completely dead. But hey, that's not my ass wait for 55 minutes. I can pump gas in 3,
yeah.
and can go 500 miles. That damn car was getting 40 miles a gallon today.
Now, here's some of the hypocrisy behind it. Those that are part of the Green New Deal, typically the left-leaning people, are now like wanting to just drop their battery-powered cars like a hotcake, and just to protest the whole Doge movement.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, Tim. If you look at the financial contributions over the last 5 to 10 years for anybody that's pushing that Green New Deal, their income versus their net worth
Yeah,
does not add up.
no, it doesn't.
If you add that into USAID, USIP, any of those federal agencies that are giving those grants out, you'll
Yeah.
find where that money comes from and where that kickback comes from. It may go through 5 NGOs before it gets back to the people that are handing it out, but
Yeah.
there are some kickbacks involved.
Yeah.
And just for the record, Tim, I'm not suicidal. I have no thoughts of killing myself. Billy, I know you're loving this. I am not. If Hillary Clinton shows up to my house or in her operatives, I am happy. I am healthy. I am cancer free. I got a brand new grandbaby, and I love life.
Congrats on the brand new grandbaby. That's
Thank you,
awesome.
sir.
Care Bear, quick thoughts before we bring in our next guest.
Well, quick thoughts. That's going to be a hard one because there's a lot of thoughts and all that.
I know. I'm sorry.
Drone's right.
I know there's a lot of thoughts. So I'm sorry about that, but we're
yeah,
trying to keep the time down.
It's
Man, I threw a lot out there tonight. My bad.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
sorry, brother.
I mean, he's on point with it all, and what I've been really wanting to touch on is something Spitfire said about people not doing or not knowing, and I think even Billy said something about it. But I know a J6er. When I talked to him, when I met him, when he come in to FMC Lexington, where I was at, we got to talking, and he's like, man, he said, before all this happened, he said, I looked at prisons and whatnot. As people like, well, they committed a crime, and that's where they should be. And he's obviously wasn't a Democrat. He's a good guy, great guy, but he just didn't know. He believed what the media told him, what the government had told him. He just believed some of it, not all of it. He believed, like, oh well, they screwed up, they committed a crime, they need to be in jail. Until he got in the middle of it, and then he's like, man, our system's corrupt. And that's the thing. That's where we're at. People just believe what they're told, and because they're not in that situation, and that's why where we're at. And as a country is because people just sit back and they believe what they're told. They don't think for themselves. I'm not saying this guy did. He's watching. That's why I'm trying to make sure that he don't think I'm talking bad about him, because I'm not. But people just they listen too much and don't think enough.
Yeah,
Listen too much and don't think.
Not enough critical thinking.
Nowhere enough critical thinking. I mean, they don't like that. Keep the masses quiet, and just you just shut up and sit down over there and let me talk, and just let it be whatever it is, and don't go against what. Yeah. Don't go against what we're pushing out.
Right.
That's my take on all of it, and that's the Tesla thing. It's like, really, y'all were all protesting gas cars 2 years ago. Protest.
Right.
Oh, everybody buy Tesla, buy Prius, buy this, go the Green New Deal. And I'm like, now because somebody has told you to have your feelings hurt, you're going to go and destroy a company that you were backing 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's an American-made company at that.
Yeah.
And that's a big stretch, just getting fully American-made.
So, but I'm gonna try. I tried to keep it short, but I mean, that's
right. Yeah, it goes along with one of my favorite memes: is which decorations am I putting up this time? Is it monkeypox, or is it the this next fad that's going on?
Yeah,
and Yeah, it's just terribly ridiculous on how all these things are sidetracked. I still want to know where the Epstein list is.
100%. Where's it at?
Right.
They're going to release it. Where's it at?
Right.
I'm waiting myself.
Yeah.
I'm still debating on whether all the JFK files have been released.
Right. Right.
They say 80,000 pages. What about those last 10?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Who's monitoring them? It's, if anything, over the last 5 years, if you're not questioning things at this point in time, you have been completely brainwashed.
I mean,
and
not just the last 5 years. I want to go on the last. Add forward to that. Yeah. So
Tim, on that thing is, think how bad the recent events have been. Think how bad history is.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
It's hell. Go back 2,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been told this. We've been taught this. Pretty much anything they've been teaching in public schools has been propaganda. I mean, if I met God today, I'm not going to say my first question. I'm going to say one of my top 10 questions would be, can you please tell me the truth?
Yeah.
Because we in this civilization has been propagandized to a level that I cannot explain. It is inconceivable how much we've been propagandized. And that's in the news, that's in history, that's in our schools.
Yep.
I mean, there's just so much. I could go. Tim, you may need to have me on like 3 more shows.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we can go. I only want to get into it right now, and we can all cover.
I don't want to come into that today.
But one of the things we are bringing this next guest in on is about children at the border and where do they go. I'll keep both of you on, Drone and Care Bear, but we're gonna welcome Cookie, Crumbles Cookie.
What's up, Cookie?
Just here listening.
So a lot to talk about when it comes to so much that's going on with our government, the weaponization. But we're bringing in Crumbles Cookie to talk about the children at the border and where do they go. Welcome, Cookie.
How
you doing?
Thank you. I'm just here listening to all the facts and figures and
a quick little plug for Albert, who's in the chat. He's thanking Drone for sporting the shirt that he has on right now. So
of course.
There it is.
I want to say Albert sent that to me. Actually got it this last week. Albert, I appreciate you, brother.
Cookie. So we had a wonderful conversation before bringing you on today. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that. What's going on with the children on the border? To my understanding, there's just children being dropped off with no adults.
Well, I have a different perspective probably of a lot of stuff because I live on the border of South Texas, and I teach students that are from different countries, and this year I have some from El Salvador and from Mexico, and I teach them to speak English, and I teach them to do citizenship the right way. And so I work 2 miles from the southernmost point of the border, just about. And so I hear stories that they know that are much different than what you hear, like Drone was saying about on the news.
Yeah.
Because obviously they tell you, oh, the poor children are brought up and they're being separated from their families. Well, what it is they're being brought up, but that is not their family. A lot of them are drugged. A lot of them have been either kidnapped or sold, or their parents have been killed. So that if you are with a family unit with the Biden administration, you got $7,900 as a family unit, and then they would drop off the kids. If you were a single male, you got $2,900 plus all the benefits. We all joke about, not in seriously joking, about the yellow folders. they all get a yellow folder and it has a number in it. And it has a paper that tells them what to ask for that's free. And we know too that they were signed up for a lot of Social Security benefits, and they give them a Social Security number and all the other stuff that most of us don't get.
Yeah.
So with the kids, what I was hearing today, and what I have witnessed is that we had Catholic Charities as the main stirrer of the pot, the keeper of the gate. And a nun that received an award from Obama, named Norma Pimentel, is the one that's the main witch of the hunt. And she runs programs from Brownsville up to probably above Rio Grande City. And I don't know what in between, but children were not being fed right. They would stick, like in hotel rooms, they would stick 10 little children in a room, and they were keeping them in hotel rooms. The whole top floor of one hotel that's 2 roads over from where I work. And the people that work at the hotel felt sorry for them because they didn't have enough food. So they would take candy and cookies and stuff to the kids. Well, those children were being moved every 2 weeks. And I like that, Drone. That's cool. But when the people that work at the hotel tell us, they move them every 2 weeks so I can really clean the hotel room. And then in another facility, we had some people that had been accused of sexually abusing their clients that were in foster care before. Well, they were back in cahoots with Catholic Charities. And I had reached out to some people that I work with in for anti-trafficking stuff with the Department of Public Safety here, which are state police.
Yeah.
And they already had gotten a call from Abbott to check it out, but because they were state and the other facilities federal, they had to get special permission. And so they had to have a 2-week notification before they could go in and check out the wolf den, right?
Wow.
And so everything looked really cool. Well, I didn't stop at that because I knew that was a bunch of stuff, because the little children were eating their arms off trying to commit suicide. These were very small children. And some of my counselor friends of past were working there, but they were trying to leave. And after Trump cut off their benefits, the children are gone. And today, what I have been told is that some of them have been sent to Puerto Rico and some have been sent to Guam. And I'm not sure where else they're being sent in the United States. At one time, there were 550,000 children that were taken. This was a couple years ago. Were taken around Christmas time to New York City. Well, they were put on Facebook. They were put on all kinds of different kinds of media, and they were told, you can come and pick up a foster kid, no questions asked, no backgrounds needed, and they could pick up 5 children at a time. Well, we know exactly what happened to those children. It's sort of like here, where the kids are being sent back. If they're sent back to Mexico in the past, maybe 2 weeks in Mexico, they have found 3 and I'm having trouble. I'm having to think of words in English because I think in Spanish sometimes.
Okay.
And they had 3 ovens, which were like the ones they used during the Holocaust. And they had,
Wow.
outside of the ovens, they had the little shoes of the children with their backpacks. And you know, sometimes it's overwhelming for me. And I said, well, I asked my students, I said, well, why would they have that stuff there? And they said, Miss Cookie, they kill them for their body parts, for their
Wow.
organs, and then they burn them in the ovens. And
Wow.
I go, wow, you know, that, as most of us that have our own children or grandchildren, you know, think about what we would do. I mean, these aren't my children, but I
Right.
Hey, Tim,
still
I just want to interject here. I think as a country, if we can't protect our children, we aren't much of a country.
absolutely,
And if anybody disagrees with that, please come meet me in Kentucky, and I will wholeheartedly have a conversation with you. It probably won't end well, but please wholeheartedly come have that conversation with me.
Well, I want to bring up a video really quick. This video I saw just a few days ago in one of the many chats that I'm in. So, yeah, it's not a very easily setting video, but some things are taking place over in Pennsylvania and in California of this subject matter here. So go
Okay,
ahead and watch.
let's see what you got.
Parenthood
Ross.
sells baby parts, and it turns out those sales may be bigger than we ever imagined, according to California public records documents that we are now exclusively reporting. I'm David Delyden with the Center for Medical Progress. Previously, we told you about the NIH emails released through FOIA that confirm a federal law enforcement investigation of the Planned Parenthood supplied fetal tissue bank in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today, we're going to talk about more shocking facts we've discovered about a second Planned Parenthood supplied fetal tissue bank at the University of California in San Diego. These facts clearly demonstrate Planned Parenthood sells baby parts in violation of federal law, and for potentially far more money than we ever discussed before. Never before released documents that CMP exclusively obtained through a California public records request show that for the past 15 years, Planned Parenthood has supplied aborted fetal body parts to UC San Diego. Its contract describes the aborted baby body parts as its proprietary fetal material, being exchanged to UC San Diego for valuable consideration. The transfer of aborted fetal tissue for valuable consideration is a federal felony, and something Planned Parenthood has strenuously denied doing for the past 8 years and continues to deny even today. But the parties of this contract, Planned Parenthood and UC San Diego, state that in supplying the aborted babies for research, Planned Parenthood shall retain all right, title, and interest in patents and patent applications and other intellectual property rights relating to the aborted fetal body parts. The valuable consideration is Planned Parenthood selling access to its proprietary aborted babies in exchange for its ownership of the university intellectual property generated with them, which could be worth millions of dollars in revenue. Our public records requests showed this agreement was updated to reflect Planned Parenthood San Diego's name change in 2014 and indicated has remained in effect to the present day. UC San Diego has registered numerous patents that were developed using aborted fetal body parts from Planned Parenthood. Some of the professors listed on the patents harvested hundreds of brains, eyes, hearts, and livers from late-term, healthy babies aborted at Planned Parenthood in Southern California. We're still learning more about the intellectual property developed with Planned Parenthood's proprietary aborted fetuses.
So I'm just going to stop it right there.
Yeah,
I was
it's
only
probably a good
halfway
thing you
through,
did.
but that was plenty.
yeah, that's see, and that is what we one time. I was working with a family that had their children had been kidnapped, and here on the border, kidnapping is pretty. You know, it happens more frequently than probably other places, and I was working with a private investigator from Mexico, and he asked me. He said, this was a girl, and I said, you know, this is her name and this is a picture, and he said, I said, I've got a picture from her family. And he said, well, tell me, is she pretty? And I said, that's so terrible. Why'd you say that? I said, it's a kid, right? And he said,
Right.
because if she's pretty, maybe she's still alive. And
Oh, wow.
I said, oh my God. And he said, yeah, they'll either use her for a sex slave or they'll prostitute her out. Or if she's not pretty, then they probably already sold her body parts. And I was just like, oh my God, does this, and in my head, it, this was years ago. So it wasn't as prevalent as now. And, obviously she did make it back 2 times, but she wanted to go see her boyfriend. And the third time they killed her. So, living on the border has its advantages, but it also, you have a totally different perspective of what's going on in the world than other parts. And what they've been doing, and Kamala was the first one that wrote the contracts for Planned Parenthood. We know that through an organization that I work with.
Yeah.
And so, she is an evil witch.
Yeah, I agree.
In the Bible it says, I can't quote it 100% correct, but in the Bible it does say that you're better off to tie a millstone around your neck and be cast into the sea than to harm a child.
Yep.
So that is next to blasphemy and taking the Lord's name in vain. I believe that is the next worst sin there is harming a child like that.
Well, and Drone just got back from seeing his new grandbaby, and those of us that are fortunate enough to have grandchildren, it's a totally different kind of affection that you have toward them than your own
That's
kids.
correct.
You can spoil them and then you can give them back. But
The kids got all the beating and the grandbabies get all the grace.
Exactly.
That's how it is.
Exactly.
I just want to make a statement on Planned Parenthood. You may agree with me, you may not, and that's okay too. I think Planned Parenthood needs to be investigated for potential of trying to profit off of abortions. If you're having an abortion and then you're trying to sell parts, you're trying to profit off of abortion. I agree with abortion in 3 ways. 1, incest. 2, rape. 3, risk of the mother. The only exception to all that is absolute mother's choice. Is if the mother's life is at risk, is the only way that any of those 3 should come into play.
All right, Care Bear's shaking his head there. What's going on, brother?
I'm not going to get into this debate on this podcast or whatever, but Drone, I love you, brother, but we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. You're taking another life. I mean, that's another being from conception. The Lord said, "I knew you. I knew you before. I knew you before."
I said
You were.
only if the mother's life is at risk.
I'm not.
Well, let's go ahead and table this discussion for a little later.
All right.
That's probably the best way to say for right now. Yeah, I like that.
I just
right
want
there.
to clarify. Only if the mother's life's at risk. That is the only way a baby should ever be aborted. I don't care if it's rape, incest. The only way a baby should be aborted is if the mother is literally about to die.
Let's go ahead and table this for a later time, Drone. Let's go ahead and table this for another time.
Go ahead, boss.
And, Cookie, you're starting to say something.
One of the things that I think when people were criticizing, the thing about the children, one of my good friends, and she's a patriot. Yeah. She worked at one of the local hospitals, and she called me one day and she said, Cookie, I just can't do this anymore. I've got to change jobs. And she did sonograms.
Okay. Wow.
Well, at the border, they were bringing at least 100 children and women daily that had been raped probably multiple times before they even got to the Border Patrol that was bringing them over. And they had been sodomized, and she would go in her little room and she would cry. And she said, you know, Cookie, I'm getting little girls that are 8 and 10 years old that are pregnant. You know, in that case, I think we kind of pray that their little bodies are too small to carry a baby. But, you know, those are the things that people don't see and that are not reported. But I see them every day and I hear the stories. And we know that these are a bunch of animals, because animals don't even do that to their own children, and they don't do that to the other animals. I mean, I don't even understand, except I've worked with Satanists enough in my old job to know this is satanic. And
I mean, I wouldn't even call them animals. I'd call them monsters, because
oh
there's a
yeah,
huge difference.
well, it's
I
evil.
agree with Tim entirely.
Yeah.
So, speaking up with somebody who's had enough, I saw a video roughly about a year ago about a Health and Human Service agent who actually blew the whistle. So I'm going to bring up this video.
This is Ms. Rodas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Japal, and distinguished members of the committee. It is an honor to be here. I thank you for the invitation to share my testimony. My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked, and we don't know if they're going to get the help they need. For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows, and I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
I want to end the video right there. I did another program roughly about 3 weeks ago, and we got kicked off of social media because of playing too long of a video. But we all have the gist of what was going on with that HHS whistleblower there. And this goes right along the lines of what Cookie's talking about here. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, would any of you all send your children over to a different country under those terms and conditions?
Absolutely not.
No.
It's just heartbreaking. You know, I don't have any kids of my own. I have 14 nieces and nephews. I no way that would ever happen. Not under my watch.
Well, Tim, I'm just going to say is we need to protect our children at all costs.
Absolutely.
And if you can't get behind that, you really need to do some soul searching and do some praying.
Yes.
Because if you can't get behind that fundamental right, protect our children, even our unborn children. Like I said, unless the mother's life is at risk, or just some severe, obscure circumstance that comes out, abortion should not even be an option.
Yeah, I mean, this is not
Every
this is not
life
on the
is
lines of abortion here, Drone. So we're talking about just children being, brought into the country and taken over
No,
to
I don't
supposedly
mean
a
to turn
sponsor.
towards it. I don't
This
mean
is
to.
this is a child coming into the country and supposedly going to a decent sponsor, but it happens to be a not so decent sponsor.
No, I mean,
So that's
and
along the
that's the
lines of
question
where
that
we're
comes
going right
up
now.
is you protect children from the womb all the
Yep.
way till they're raised, and
Yeah,
even
I
then,
agree
as
with that.
young adults, is I have a 18, 19, and 21-year-old. They're considered grown, but they still need guidance every day. And you cannot just say, oh, well, the sponsor, who's borrowing the sponsors? There's just too much risk there involved.
Right.
It comes back to personal responsibility, I think. If you're going to raise children, those are your children.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're from your seed or they are not. If they're yours or yours, you take care of them. It takes a town to raise a kid,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And like same thing. If it was Care Bear's kid and I saw them out doing something, I would Care Bear take care of this. If I
Yeah.
saw Spitfire's kid, like Spitfire, your kid's in the Air Force, he's not doing X, Y, Z. She's gonna take care of that.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing
And
is,
if
what
I
he's
got to
talking
raise
about,
concern for that, we as a country have got to start taking care of our youth.
Yeah. Go
That
ahead,
is
Care
the
Bear.
future of our country, and our country will not exist much longer
what
unless we
drone,
start that.
drone, what Cookie's talking about, what he's talking, you're right. I'm not going away from that, but these kids, what Cookie said is, that their parents are killed before they even get to the border, and it's not
Bad.
just Mexicans; they're bringing in from all over the world, and they're coming across our southern border, and their parents are Their parents do try to protect them. They're trying to bring them here for whatever reason to think it may be a
Absolutely.
better life or whatever, but their parents are being killed off so they could get the coyotes or whatever could get the children to bring them over here to sex traffic them, to tear them apart, to sell their organs or do whatever it is that they're trying to
Yep.
do with them. So
Yeah.
you're right. Nobody's going to fault you. Nobody's going against you on that. But
Correct.
like I said, the parents are being killed. As far as what Cookies is talking about, those
Yeah.
parents are being killed so they can be brought over here and put in a system that is being run by our government. And
That's the
our
problem. Is the
government
government
it's
is
Or
trafficking
not
children,
there's
and they do that
possibly a money
with
exchange
CPS.
between
100%, boss.
yeah, or there's possibly a money exchange between the parent and the sponsor,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Well,
Yeah.
I do believe this was a big this is a big initiative of President Trump's. It's also a very big initiative of Putin, uh, because he at one time was one of these children, and also was Musk. That's why he's an advocate for the children.
Yeah.
Because as a young child, he somehow or another became somebody that was groomed when he was like 8 years old. And he and another few other children somehow miraculously were able to get away from them. And the people that were grooming them were all of political status.
Okay. That says a lot right there.
Yeah. And I won't even I won't even name
No,
names,
you don't have to
but
name names.
no,
We have a
but
pretty
I
good
think
idea.
everybody kind of understands.
Yeah.
But so it's not something that just happened. It's just that I think it's been brought to light. And it's been so pervasive under the Biden administration that, they just opened the door and said, this is in your face and you like it, or, kiss my grits.
Well, I remember during the Trump's first administration, they were trying to pin children in cages on Trump. And we all saw those pictures. And then someone actually did some research, and those cages were during the Obama administration. And I'm just like,
yeah,
wow.
but kids,
Wow.
but Trump had them being DNA tested, and they didn't match the parents.
Didn't match the sponsor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or the supposed parent. Yeah.
the supposed parent. Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, it's where all the coyotes and the cartels came into play.
Yep.
yep,
Yep.
and the price on trafficking. Like, I mean, in the old days, people used to come across to work.
Yeah.
And, but they came to work. They didn't come with the yellow folder that gave them all the instructions of the handouts. And what they would do is this time, what was different, before they brought their families to help them work. And this time they brought the kids. And once they got across, they dumped them. That's why we have so many that have nobody with them. They just dump them and take off.
Well,
So a
Cookie,
question for our
they was getting
audience.
financial contributions. That was the whole incentive.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That whole process. It was, like we said, it was $2,900 for an individual male, $7,900 versus a family unit. So
Yeah. Exactly.
they were exploiting that to the absolute full extent. They were stealing babies, killing parents,
Yeah.
taking these children that would have a loving, caring home, and essentially, turning them into a money making process. And most of the times, once they got across the border, whoever was coming across playing the parent was bolting out, and the kids were getting either dropped off or recycled to go back and do it again over and over and over for financial gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that too.
Well, I saw a lot of things. I worked in foster care as a young adult, so this was like in the early to mid 90s, and I saw a lot of bouncing around between kids going from one foster home to another, and this is counties fighting over the money. So the county agencies were fighting over kids' heads to gain money, and so it goes back, probably even further before that. But I mean, that's what I experienced or witnessed in my own experience.
Something that we saw, and I brought this up to a patriot that I spoke with today. He and his wife had put in to foster a child that the mom was a crack addict, and so he and his wife had some other children, but they said, we can handle one more, and so they took this baby in that was obviously having a struggle, right? And so she was about 2 years old, and he was driving from an area from where he lives, and he was going west, and he was just going to go to the bank, but he had the baby with him, in her little car seat.
Yeah.
But he had his 3%er, and decal on the car.
So it got profiled.
He got profiled, and he got pulled over, and they said, "Who's this child?" And he said, "Well, it's my daughter."
Yeah.
And this was already a couple years ago now. And then they said, "Well, prove that she's your daughter." Well, he said, "Well, I don't have her papers with me right now. What do you?" They took the baby away from he and his wife. And now it goes to federal court. And they haven't had her for about 2 years now. And this is the child that was just ripped out of his arms on a traffic stop because he had a 3%er insignia on his window. And, going to the banks like all of us do. And, I thought about that today, and so I called him and I said, now may be your best time to take this to court and try to get her back.
Well, Cookie, that's all good points. Is all these governmental agencies has been politicized.
Yeah.
To attack patriots, and I just can't say that strongly enough. We have got to look back with a strong force and say, this is why this agency was started. This is their purpose, and put those people back to their original purpose. I have a feeling a lot of these agencies have been politicized to attack their political opponents, and we need to correct that immediately and/or just remove those agencies altogether. I think
Yeah.
Department of Education needs something that needs completely ripped out
Yep.
of our government. CPS, I think, needs major reform.
Let's doge them.
Well, I mean, just as an example, Tim,
Yeah.
you know, I got three children.
Yeah.
I was a single father when my youngest was 4 years old. I was treated as a villain. I've had over 75 court appearances. Wholeheartedly at some point after those 75 appearances, won full custody of all three of my children. And my whole life's goal, not even for just my children, my grandchildren, is to know that, hey, dad's here. I'm not going anywhere. I will fight for you. I will protect you. And I have a feeling a lot of children in America and a lot of parents without the means to fight like I fought. Because I mean, when I say 75 court appearances, I spent probably closer to $90,000 fighting for custody of my children and just for the rights of a parent.
Yeah.
Um, and as a man in America, if you're married and you get divorced, your rights are severely limited.
Yes. It's
They're
terrible.
better now than they was 15 years ago. Because
Yeah.
like I said, 18, 19, 21 years old. But I promise you, any time that those children today need help, they call dad first. Um, it's either me or stepmom Jody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's usually stepmom Winsell because she runs the roost.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it's we need to get back to basics
Yeah.
in America, and it starts, I think, with our relation to Christ, relation to family, and our responsibility to our nation.
Yep. Yep. And let's make common sense common again.
Yeah, easy.
Go ahead, Billy.
Make critical thinking matter again.
Yes. Yes.
Billy,
Spitfire,
you're a
you're being
smart
too
guy,
loud over
buddy.
there.
I'm curious to see the amount of money that was spent on the J6 investigations and where that money could have been else spent better.
Because all these
Food for
committees cost money to be, you're on a board, or you're on a committee. You get paid to be there. I know I was on a committee or a number of committees in the past, but yeah, I was on a board before, and I was an elected official in the past, so yeah, I serve public office. Yeah, there's payment that happens, whether it be a stipend or something to the effect. Yeah, so that does cost money, and it comes out of taxpayers' dollars.
Billy, I'm just going to make a statement out of what I was allowed to read out of LW's paperwork, because he has the NDA.
I want to
I
pardon
want
myself for just a moment, gentlemen.
to say the government spent between $2 and $10 million just on LW alone, trying to get just surveilling and doing all his background stuff. They went back to all the way, and let's remember, this man is in his 50s. They went back to when he was like 13 years old, and they brought the entire case from age 13 on.
And see, that's crazy for me. You look at that. What a waste of my tax dollars. What a waste. Did BLM get the same type of
No.
attention?
No,
No.
no, no.
Look, on me,
They had the Summer of Love, and then you had the whole what was it, the federal agencies raiding somebody over a squirrel, and they killed a damn squirrel.
I forgot
I see
about
you
that.
laughing, Billy, but
I forgot about that.
yeah, don't forget about that. They killed the damn squirrel.
But what happened? Because I've worked with criminal justice for years, and before a juvenile's folder was supposed to be frozen, and it was frozen for judges
Ever.
too. So I don't know how they would have brought up him being a teenager as a juvie. I
Oh
just think that
no, no,
what they did was ridiculous. It's just
I promise you, Cookie.
no, I believe it.
He had some stuff that I couldn't read, and I respected the NDA. That's that non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah,
So I didn't read that, and he wouldn't let me read that. The stuff I was allowed to read, though, they went all the way back to when the man was literally 13, 14 years old.
but that is see,
And
that's breaking the law right
you got to
Yeah, they're
think,
not allowed to do that.
well,
now.
you got to
That's
think LW came from a broken home. Um,
dysfunctional.
he was homeless for a minute. They put him in a mental institution. Um, essentially because as a teenager, you're supposed to have that loving, caring environment, and he was out on the streets, so they stuck him in a mental institution. Um, and then they come back and like, oh, this is a serial lifelong criminal, and let's not forget the fact that this man's felony stems from 20 plus years ago. What point in the Second Amendment does it say that you cannot have the right to own and bear arms unless you're a felon? Care Bear, does it say it anywhere in there?
No,
No,
no.
no. But you're talking about how far they go back. In my paperwork, I, I've had since I've been 18. I've had quite a few vehicles in my name that I've had what broke down, whatever, sold them, parted them out, junked them. What somebody else has ended up with them. They went as far as to tracing down every vehicle I've ever owned from the
No,
time I was 18 and tracing all the and doing finding out who owns it now. In my paperwork, I seen in there where a car that I hadn't had since the early 2000s, I seen who the new owner is back in 2022. That's that's they wasted tax dollars on research. I had a car in 2002. I got rid of it in like 2003 or something, and they now know who owns it in 2022. Why do they need to know that if they're investigating me? They don't need to know nothing about a car I had 20 years ago.
that's
Right.
And how much money do you think they spent on that said investigation?
a bunch of hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So getting back to the children of the border, we got to wrap pretty soon, but I want to get back to that really quick. So a question that I have for all five of our panelists here is, what as Americans can we do about children being brought here under these terms and conditions that we've just seen in a couple of different videos? I can't quite see what that says there, Drone. I'm half blind.
That says the National Human Trafficking Task Force.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That means everybody around pay attention to your children. Pay
Yeah.
attention to children around you that even aren't yours. If you
what can we
see
do about
something,
stuff on the
say
border?
something.
Well, what can we do about these children just being dropped off and everything
Well,
that's
I
going on?
think that people that have been found guilty of these crimes, I think it should be an automatic death penalty. That's it. And not 20 years later either.
72 hours.
No,
Public execution, in my opinion.
It's
Billy?
you have
put
to.
it in a public eye. They talk about all the kids got left behind and what blah blah blah. Put it all in the public eye. Every detail, even the
Yeah.
gruesome, maybe not all the real gruesome aspects of it, but put it in the public eye so people know. But don't show pictures, obviously, but let people know what this kid didn't just get
Yeah,
dropped
what
off.
happened?
Oh, this kid didn't just get found. This is what happened, and this is what's happening. Speak up about it if you know about it. Everybody's got a video camera on their phone.
Right.
You know, people are all the time
But you
videos.
know,
Don't
Well,
be.
I mean, the
Hold
press
on, hold on.
secretary yesterday, she came on to talk about, MS-13 and the other gangs.
then that I want.
She listed what they were doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of showing like pictures and all the grease and this and that,
Right.
just list what they were doing. I mean, she went all the way as far as yesterday. Hell, I mean, she even listed necrophilia.
Wow.
Jesus.
But that's how you bring this stuff to light. Once you
Yeah.
bring this to light, is when the stuff dies. It's when it hides in the dark is when the stuff thrives. But
But
once
I mean,
we bring it to light and everybody's bringing it to light, this stuff dies. It stops in its tracks.
okay, but what you're saying is, they can say it on Fox, they can say it on some other news, but on
Well,
mainstream media, they don't tell you jack. And
well,
that's the problem.
that's the problem with mainstream media.
Billy.
Who's the new media?
Drone. Let Billy talk.
I just want to add something.
Yeah.
So, everyone took basic economics, supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Follow me here for a short bit.
Okay.
If you have a supply and you have a demand, what is happening to the people that are demanding these services and goods?
Exactly.
Yes.
A lot of people do not talk about that. And you look at the conviction rate of said sex traffickers, abusers,
I mean, we're still waiting on the Epstein list, right?
that little slap on, you can get caught with pardon my language, a key of coke in California.
No.
And get 20 years, but you get caught doing something to a child and you
If
get
you get caught doing human trafficking in any aspect, it should be absolute 100% death penalty immediately. Not something that's up for appeal for 20 years. By Felicia,
Yeah.
get in the fucking grave.
Yeah.
But as far as you was mentioning there, we need to. We're not racist, guys. We are human. The human race.
Yeah.
We have to protect each other at all stages of life. Pre-birth, birth, all the way up through senior citizens.
Have a good night, Story.
Life is the process. We need to 100% protect life at all aspects of life. And until these people are brought to justice, we have no justice.
Right.
Go ahead, Tim, go.
When we start teaching the value of life, that changes the perspective of everything. That's all there is to it.
amen to that, brother.
We need to start teaching the value of life again. And usually people that grow up in the agricultural areas know the value of life. They're raising cattle, sheep, pigs, whatever. They know what the value of life is. And that cow might be food for that family or a neighboring family for that matter. But there's also the unfortunate part of death behind it. So this is where the value of life comes into play. You're raising these animals.
It goes hand in hand with that saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Correct.
And I think as Americans, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
A lot of communities have lost touch with that.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, every kid going to everybody's house, different days for dinner. You had your football mom. No child was left behind.
Everybody looking out for everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to that grassroots.
Amen.
It's almost like a small town attitude is what you're referring to, Billy.
Correct.
And that's how I grew up as well.
Well, and I did too. And here, I remember we were going to go to a neighboring town, and I said, I got to talk to my mother.
Yeah.
And one of the girls said, well, just don't tell her. And I said, what are you talking about? By the time I get back, she's already going to know. So I better tell my mama, or else it wouldn't be a good scene.
Well, Cookie, I just want to point out, my high school mascot was a bulldog. Our motto in town when I was growing up is it takes a town to raise a bulldog.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I went messed up as a teenager, before I got home,
They already knew.
my parents knew.
Yeah,
When
mine
my
too.
children were growing up, before they got home, I already knew.
Exactly.
That is how it is. We have to look out for each other. Like I said, we're not one race, we're not two races. We are the human race. We have to take care of each other from pre-birth till senior citizens. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a scientist because I'm not. Life is born at conception, period. And it ends when you go meet Jesus.
Yep.
Or go the other direction.
So I saw a little video. I'm going to bring this one up. I wasn't planning on it, but here we go. I saw this video on Instagram, and I had to share it around to some friends, and I want to bring it up specifically for this show where life begins at conception.
This is the documented moment of conception. And the sperm enters the egg, and there's this poof of light that comes off of it. Scientists are studying this, and they're looking at it, and they're like, okay, well, it looks like it's a release of zinc, a burst of zinc that comes off the egg, and it creates this appearance. But any way you slice it, they can't explain away that light happens when life happens. Isn't that amazing? Light happens when life happens. So this is...
So, Care Bear.
I seen that the other day. That man, that was awesome, and I shared that with my preacher. Man,
Yeah,
that was
I shared it with the pastor as well. So,
yeah, that was awesome, man. That was great.
It's like the soul happens right there at that moment.
Yeah,
the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Right.
Cookie, what do you think?
Well, I believe that, and I believe that we need, I know lots of families that don't ever take their children to church.
Yeah.
It belongs with values and morals and your roots. I've worked with gangs and drug addicts and all kinds of people all my life as a school administrator, and a lot of the kids, they didn't know that they were worthy, and they've never been to church. And I said, well, you don't have to go to church to be able to pray. They'd say, no, you have to have one of those guys that prays for you. And I said, what are you talking about, one of those guys? Well, they were talking about a priest.
Okay.
In South Texas, we have lots of Catholics. Correct. And I said, what? No, I said, you just talk to him just like you're talking to me.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we can't do that. And that was a very hard concept to teach the kids, is, when you screw up or you're about to screw up, you better talk to somebody that's got a little power, because right now you don't have any power.
Yeah.
So I think it's about our values and our morals, and it's gone. I mean, we have to bring it back. We have to be the ones that are the crusaders.
And you can actually be the person to step up and pray for someone. I remember when it was about 10 years ago when I lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'd be riding my wheelchair alongside of the road because that's what I like to do, exercise. And, somebody would pull over and they'd be like, can I help you up the hill? I'm like, no, I got it. I'm good. Well, can I say a prayer for you? I said, yeah, that's very welcomed. Thank you. And, they said a prayer for me. And
that was welcomed.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Tim, I just want to point out too, at some point, you want to talk about these abortions. At some point, you've got to bring up the birth rate.
I know. We're going to table this for another time there, Drone. So unfortunately, I don't want to cut you off because we've already gone like an hour and 43 minutes on this live broadcast. So we need to give a little rest for our audience here. This is quite a long show.
Boss. That's my bad.
So yeah. So Spitfire, any final thoughts? And I believe you're on mute. And Billy just came back.
Yeah, it's so much of everything that we talked about, but in the end, it's, if you see something, say something, do something. Don't close your eyes and walk away from it. Yeah. Also, a lot of things need to be brought to the light so more people can see what is going on. But the worst part is when people see too much, they become so immune to it, it doesn't even bother them no more. Yeah, things really have to be done. Making people pay for their crimes, what it really comes down to.
Yeah. Accountability.
Yes. Especially crimes against children. Accountability. But yeah, I don't think there's one real answer to any of it. I think it's a multiple of answers together and many people working together. Yeah. But I guess those are my final thoughts at this point.
Billy.
Ooh, I'll keep this short, but I could talk for hours on these topics.
Right. I can too. We all can.
What I'm seeing a lot of people do is get complacent these days. Pick a topic where you feel you can make an impact. And if you're going to pick kids, abortions, Planned Parenthood, pick one thing, put your blood, sweat, and tears into it until you get some resolve out of it, and make a change, make a difference. Just start with one topic and do as much as you can within that topic, and then move forward to the next. And just don't get complacent. Hold your people accountable, hold the people around you accountable, and try and make a positive impact.
Amen. Care Bear.
I'm with Billy. I mean, and don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. I mean, you do something, say something, be about it. Don't just talk about it, be about it. I mean, because like I said, complacence. I've preached that for years with people. Like, well, I'm like, everybody's become complacent. So don't be complacent. If you get in that rut, you get in a rut, just get out of it. Don't stay in that rut, because that's what happens. People get in a rut and they're just like, I'm okay here. I just keep chugging along. Well, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get better, whether it's with your job or whatever it is, however you want to look at it, because you're getting that rut. It's the same, and nothing's going to change, and you're never going to change nothing outside of that rut. So block her down at 4 low and pull up out of that rut, and do something, because if not, then we're just going to continually go downhill and nothing's going to get better. So if just because somebody don't agree with you doesn't mean you're not right. I'm not saying everybody's right all the time about what we talk about, but if you are wrong about it, listen to it. So that way you can go home and you can study about it. That way you can come back and fight a better fight the next time.
And you learn something from it.
Yes.
Drone.
Well, I agree with everybody here. I will say that we have multiple issues affecting our world currently as it's going. Biggest question is anybody ready to quit? Anybody ready to turn in their cards and just comply? My answer is no. Anybody else ready to quit?
No.
Nope.
We fight this till the end. If it has to be bitter, it'll be till the bitter end. I don't think it'll go that far, but I'm not quitting. I'm not stopping. I stand on my values. I stand on my principles. I stand on human rights. And if you can't agree with that, you are my enemy.
Amen, brother. And I'm right there with you. I hear you. And I'm standing. Well, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm standing, figuratively speaking. So
appreciate you, Tim.
Likewise, Drone. Cookie, final thoughts for tonight?
I just believe that, even if you are the only one that is the advocate in the area, maybe you need to be the only advocate, because the kids that I worked with before, that were written off as being kids that were most at risk. I wrote a program for them. I believed in them, and 97% of them went on to college and graduated. So, sometimes you have to be the only person and outstanding in the field by yourself, but do it.
Yeah.
And even if they get pissed off that you're there and they go, oh, here he comes again, oh, here she comes again, that's okay. I don't care. Make a difference.
You're absolutely right. I've stood by myself on some battles, and in the end, regardless if I won or lost,
Exactly.
it was still a win. If you understand what I'm saying, because there's lessons learned, lessons from everyone who even witnessed it. So not only I learned a lesson, others learned lessons as well. So yeah, so keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think we all sometimes need to take care of ourselves too, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. But
it's absolutely true.
Try to be an advocate for whomever, because it makes a difference. Even if it makes a difference for one person, you've made a difference.
Yeah.
Tim, I just want to say, American Patriot, I will not bend, I will not break. I will
Amen.
not go away. I'm not going anywhere.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Patriots 3, we'd like to thank all the panelists, Drone, Care Bear, and Cookie. And tune in next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on Tim Holiday TV on Facebook, Rumble, definitely Rumble. Follow on Rumble, because I did a show about 3 weeks ago, and good old Meta, Facebook shut us down. But Rumble kept us going. And also look for us. I'm starting to stream on YouTube. I'm happy to see that YouTube hasn't yanked this video yet because of some of the subject matter that's been carried on. But yeah, also on YouTube as well. So yeah, YouTube and Facebook seem to be a little sensitive. So we want to thank everyone here. God bless everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good night.
Have a good night.
Night.